Why money problems rarely start with money. Most people think they have a money problem. They look at their bank account, their bills, their debt, and assume the issue is simple: not enough income, not enough savings, not enough money coming in. But here's the strange part. Many of these people earn decent salaries. Some invest, some budget carefully, and yet, the stress never really goes away. The pressure stays. The feeling of being behind follows them year after year. That's because most money problems don't actually begin with money. They begin much earlier, with decisions, habits, and ways of thinking that quietly shape financial outcomes long before numbers show up on a statement. If you've ever wondered why working harder doesn't seem to create relief, or why financial anxiety persists even when you're doing the right things, this is the conversation most people never have, but should. Money problems matter because they quietly shape almost every part of life. They influence where you live, how you work, how much pressure you feel, and how much freedom you actually have to make choices. But for most people in the US and the UK, money doesn't feel like a clear problem with a clear solution. It feels like a constant background weight. Bills arrive every month. Rent or mortgage payments take a significant portion of income. Everyday costs rise slowly but steadily. Even when salaries increase, the relief rarely lasts. Expenses expand, expectations adjust, and before long, things feel tight again. What makes this situation difficult is that nothing feels obviously wrong. There's no single moment of failure. Life feels busy, demanding, and stressful, but still normal. So people assume the issue is simple. They just need to earn more, save more, or budget better. But that assumption hides the real issue. Financial stress is rarely created by one bad decision or one unexpected expense. It's usually the result of patterns formed over years. Career choices made without thinking about long-term leverage. Spending habits shaped by convenience rather than intention. Time being traded away without considering future flexibility. When these patterns repeat long enough, money problems start to feel permanent, even for people who appear successful on paper. Until the root pattern is recognized, the numbers alone won't fix anything. Income can rise, but pressure stays. That's why understanding the real problem matters. Because money issues don't come from a lack of effort. They come from direction, or the absence of it. If money problems don't start with money, then where do they actually begin? Most of the time, they begin with how people are taught to think about stability, success, and risk. From early on, many people learn that financial responsibility means being safe. Keep a steady job, avoid mistakes, don't take risks until everything feels secure. On the surface, this sounds sensible, but over time, this mindset creates decisions that prioritize short-term comfort over long-term strength. One common issue is fear-driven decision-making. Career choices are often made to avoid uncertainty rather than to build leverage. People stay in roles that feel familiar even when growth slows. They wait for the right time to invest or change direction, not realizing that waiting itself has a cost. Another root cause is the way habits form quietly. Lifestyle expenses rise naturally with income, not because people are careless, but because progress is often confused with consumption. A higher salary quickly becomes a higher baseline, leaving little room to build flexibility. There's also a disconnect between effort and outcome. Many people work harder each year but don't see proportional results. That's because effort alone doesn't compound, systems do. Without a structure that links income, skills, spending, and investing together, financial progress stays fragile. None of this means people are irresponsible or unmotivated. It means they're following a model that emphasizes stability while ignoring resilience. And in a world that constantly changes, stability without strategy is often the source of the very money problems people are trying to escape. If money problems usually start before money, then fixing them also starts before numbers. The solution isn't dramatic change or unrealistic promises. It's a shift in how you think about progress and how intentionally you act on it. The first change is moving from reaction to direction. Most people react to money. They adjust spending after stress appears. They think about investing after feeling behind. They consider career changes only when dissatisfaction becomes unbearable. A more effective approach is deciding in advance what money is supposed to do for your life. That means treating income as a resource, not a scorecard. Income is not proof of success, it's raw material. Used intentionally, it can build skills, fund investments, and create options over time. Used passively, it disappears into routine expenses and resets every month. Another important shift is focusing on leverage instead of effort. Working harder can increase income temporarily, but skills, systems, and ownership create durability. This might mean investing in learning that increases long-term earning power, or building habits that allow small amounts of money to compound consistently. This approach doesn't require quitting a job or taking extreme risks. It requires clarity, asking whether your current path builds future flexibility or quietly limits it. Whether your spending supports long-term goals or only short-term comfort. Progress here often feels slow and unexciting. That's normal. Real financial improvement rarely announces itself early. But unlike reactive decisions, intentional ones build momentum. Over time, pressure decreases, options expand, and money stops feeling like a constant source of stress, not because you have everything figured out, but because you're finally moving with purpose. The difference between people who struggle with money and those who gain control over it rarely shows up quickly. That's why it's so easy to underestimate. In the short term, different choices often look the same. You still go to work. You still pay bills. Life doesn't suddenly change. But over time, the gap becomes impossible to ignore. When money decisions are made reactively, life slowly becomes more constrained. More of your future income is already spoken for. More of your time is locked into obligations. Every unexpected expense feels heavier, not because it's large, but because there's no margin. Financial stress becomes chronic, even if nothing dramatic goes wrong. On the other hand, when decisions are made with intention, progress looks quieter but more stable. Pressure decreases gradually. Small advantages begin to stack. Skills deepen, investments compound, and flexibility grows almost invisibly. Instead of feeling rushed by every decision, you gain room to pause. This is where time becomes the most powerful factor. Consistency matters more than intensity. Direction matters more than speed. People who align their actions early don't need extreme effort later, because momentum does the work for them. Financial freedom, in this sense, isn't about luxury or escaping work entirely. It's about choice, the ability to adapt without panic, to slow down if needed, to make decisions based on long-term values rather than short-term pressure. The long-term outcome isn't determined by one bold move. It's shaped by hundreds of quiet decisions that either build resilience or slowly remove it. At the end of the day, this isn't about becoming obsessed with money or trying to control every detail of your life. It's about awareness, because the most damaging money problems don't announce themselves loudly. They build quietly while you're busy reacting. Most people don't make terrible financial decisions. They make unexamined ones. They repeat patterns because those patterns feel normal. They assume pressure is just part of adulthood. And that clarity will arrive later, after the next raise, the next promotion, the next stage of life. But later is rarely when change happens. Once you understand that money problems often begin long before money itself becomes an issue, you start to see your choices differently. You notice how often convenience replaces intention, how comfort delays progress, how drifting feels harmless in the moment but expensive over time. The goal isn't to have a perfect plan. Very few people ever do. The goal is to stop moving unconsciously, to slow down enough to ask where your current path is actually leading, and whether it still makes sense for the life you want. Financial clarity doesn't arrive all at once. It's built gradually through reflection, adjustment, and consistency. But once it starts, it changes how you relate to work, income, and time. You stop asking how to survive the next year and start thinking about how to shape the next decade. So here's the real question to leave you with. Do you feel like you're actively choosing your financial direction, or simply responding to pressure as it shows up? And what part of your money or career life feels the most uncertain right now? Share your thoughts in the comments. That's often where better questions and better decisions begin.